Okay, so the date on your opener says 415, but it's actually 425. So we're going to do the 415 opener today on 425. All right, so the first set says find the greatest common factor of the terms in the following expression. So all we're basically going to do is find the greatest common factor for these three terms. I do that by doing a factor tree. What do I have for 35, Daisha? Okay, and then for 50?
You got 5 and 10. And then 2 and 5.
And then for 30?
3 and 10, then 2.
Okay, so then I'm going to come over to the right, and I'm going to put these factors in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to take my term 35, 5 times 7, and then 50, and then 30. Okay, once I do that, I then go through and do what next? Okay, what do all three of these numbers have in common? Do they have anything else in common?
No.
Oops, that's a 3 I circled, isn't it? There we go. So 5. So the greatest common factor is going to be 5. And then we need to look at our variables. Do they all have an m?
Yep.
Yeah. Which is the one with the smallest exponent? M to the 4th. Do they all have an n? Which is the smallest?
Wait, no, the one that don't have a,
The one that doesn't have an exponent with it. Because that means it's just basically n to the first power. So my greatest common factor is going to be 5m to the 4th n. Now, my greatest common factor I now need to help finish my rectangle model at the bottom of our opener here. What does my greatest common factor represent on my area model?
the height.
The height. So I'm going to go ahead and put that out as my height. So when you guys do your quiz tomorrow, once you get your greatest common factor, have Mr. McFarland, myself, or Miss B check it to make sure that your greatest common factor is right. Because if it's not, then the rest of your information will be all wrong. Okay? So if you mess this first step up, your whole answer will be wrong. So, again, check to make sure you have that right before moving on. Now, these three terms represent what on my area model? Yeah, the area. So I go ahead and put them in down at the bottom for my areas. So my first area is
35 to 0 feet.
that 5 is hard to read, isn't it? There you go. Then my second area, what type of 50 is that though? And my third area. So what am I trying to find here? The width. Good. So if we're trying to find the width, I already have the height and I have the total area. So I'm going to go ahead and write the height in each of my rectangles. That way it helps me find my width a little bit easier. And I have all my work already written out. So 5 times something. So I'm writing my height in each of my rectangles so I don't forget to show that bit of work because some of y'all do. Okay, now I'm ready to find my width. Because part of my stuff I need to do is make sure that I'm covering and showing all my work for my area model. So my area is 35. What number didn't I use for 35? 7. So my width is 7.
Do you need anything? Yes, you need an M. And you need 7 N.
Very good. So what Kaylon was telling us, because our total area has m to the 5th, our height only had m to the 4th, so our width is going to have one more m. Our height for n and then our total area was in 3, so we go from 1 to 3, so that means our width has to have, is that right? 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
So the width of my first rectangle is 7mn squared. So if you notice, I'm showing all of my work again. Inside my rectangle, I'm showing my height times my width, which equals my area. And then I'm coming to the top of my area model, and I'm labeling the width of that particular side. Okay, AJ, what numbers didn't I use? Which, when you multiply them together, it gets, okay? So I'm taking, it's a negative 10 because my answer is a negative 50, good. And then what about my variables, AJ? And that's it, good. Any questions on how we got that width?
No questions.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
We just want to get it over with.
Well, okay. Then my final width. So my total area is 30. What numbers didn't I use for 30, Michael?
2 and 3.
Which when you multiply them together, you get, so my width is 6. Okay, Mike, do I need any more m's? I have 4 here and 4 here, so do I need more?
No.
What about n's?
No.
Well, I have one.
Yes.
How many more? How many more?
5.
Close. If I have 1 here and 5 here, I'm
4.
4 more. So n to the 4th. So my width here is 6 n to the 4th. Now you would think you would finally be done, but we're not because now we have to write our final answer. You guys have room at the bottom of your opener where it has the expression and the equal sign. I'm going to kind of write mine up about the Docere desktop trial. So I have area equals, and then I'm going to write in my answer. So my answer is my height. So what's my height here?
5m to the 4th.
Then what I put in?
7m.
Nah, because it's my height times my width. So how do I represent times? Parentheses, then I put in my second width, which is
10.
negative,
M to the
and then my third width,
6 m to the 4th.
so positive 6. End it with parentheses and a box, bless you, and we're done with the front side here. So I understand this is a lot of work. We have 2 more lessons that we're going to use and build upon it, okay? Remember our earlier rectangle models where it had 4? So like, we'd have a big square and it'd be divided into 4 sections. Well, that's where the MA comes into play. Because we can find the area of this, but sometimes this is split between 2 rectangles. So that's what we're going to focus on a little bit next week. All right, flip it over. We're not going to do the backside. I feel like you guys are doing a really good job of finding the greatest common factor. So we're not going to do the backside today. So we're just going to leave it like this.
Fly away.